Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. Today's program is going to be festive, it's going to be fantastic, and it's going to be fun. We have Candice and Woody Fincham in the house. We will highlight them on camera soon. We do want to let you know where Keith Smith is. He's with his beautiful wife, Yonna Smith, on a warm beach. Maybe, I guess it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I could say maybe drinking a pina colada. And they're planning their 2025 business strategies for their team, Yes Realty Partners, and a fantastic brokerage where Candice is a key partner within. So Keith will be back in 2025, but have no fear, we have a fantastic lineup today and the following week. Next week, Ned Galloway and Neil Williamson in the show, so mark your calendars for that one. Judah Wickhauer behind the camera. If we can go to the studio camera, then a 3-shot, and welcome our stars today, Candice and Woody. We were highlighting Christmas magic, guys. Before we get into real estate and an industry that's changing rapidly, how about we talk some of the Christmas magic or the traditions in your house? Maybe ladies first. I would love to hear what is going on with the magic in your casa, Candice.
Oh, mi casa está bien. So love Christmas. Really, Thanksgiving starts it all off.
Same.
And my Bubba, I used to just sit in the kitchen with her cooking. Obviously, Woody and I had both gone through culinary school in our past lives, and I would just cook with my Bubba, my family, and then I would obviously eat continuously throughout the entire next day. And my most valuable possessions, I'd say, or things that I have are really from, passed down through generations. So I have this knife. It's about yay big now. It's been sharpened probably 8 million times over the last 50 years.
So yay big so they can see it. Hold on. So
we're
talking like
so
about
it's
a
about
foot?
that big.
Okay.
It originally started about that big, and my father had it all growing up when he was a kid, my sister and I when we were little, and it is the absolute best butter knife ever, but apparently it started as a really big carving knife that was serrated, and now it is duller than this table. But so I was showing my kids that, and I told them how, they would get it eventually, passed down. And I just love, doing the Christmas lights, taking the kids and the dog out for looking at Christmas lights, and just eating and having time together, watching The Grinch. It's always a favorite. We've seen it probably 3 times this week already.
Oh, wow.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I love it. Woody, we'll get you in the mix here. And I'll throw this to you guys. My favorite day, and this is maybe me getting a little sappy with my older age, we do a very similar tradition to you. On Friday, we get the Christmas tree after Thanksgiving. And we got the Christmas tree this year, I think, from, Ivy Nursery. We put it up in the living room, and we get the ornaments from the cardboard box. And Ornament Day is my absolute favorite. I am the sappy dad that's taking the ornaments out of the box. I'm saying, this ornament is 43 years old. This ornament is 37 years old. My 6-year-old just rolls his eyes. My wife absolutely loves it because she sees the joy in it. But the older I've gotten, the more I find these ornaments as our most precious possessions because they make me remember something that I didn't think of until I'm holding that ornament that time. One of my favorite times, Woody. I'm just curious some of the traditions in your house for Christmas.
Like Candice was saying, our family is very food oriented, so gastronomy is important. So we continue a lot of my mother's traditions with the types of food that we cook. And although with Christmas, I'm more of a Grinch than I am anything else. And my wife likes to call me Mr. Finch. Most of the decorating and all of that's left to her, but our 2 teenagers at home, Zach especially, our boy, he really enjoys it. He was very happy to get some of our yard ornaments out, our porch decorations, and we threw out our Christmas tree last year because it was time, because we use artificials. And Lori decided this year, rather than putting up a full-size tree, we have a little 4-foot tree now on top of a stand.
Nice.
So it's different, but they like it, and that's all that matters, really. Some of our ornaments, we've got some. My parents are no longer with us, and Lori's grandfather's no longer with us, so it's always special when we have ornaments with their pictures in it, and we always put those up every year, and that's special to me to see my mom and dad on the tree. So
Yeah, I find too, ornaments really do bring back so many memories. And not only who gave them to you or where you got them. Beat the last year, my kid's nanny became grandma, and, just wonderful family members. She made these ornaments with the kids' pictures in it. And then going through Montessori school, one of the teachers, Miss Khadija, a few years ago, she actually hand drew portraits of every kid that was in her class. And so whenever the kids are putting them up, they're like, oh, I have the ones that I've had my whole life. And then now they actually have ones that mean something to them. So when we're putting them up, it's really just the act of going through those memories and going through those really special people and occasions. And yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite things, as well as we're eating and putting them up and trying to get the cats from destroying everything.
All right, there we go. She's got cats. I got a German Shepherd. He's got Australian Shepherds over there. We're animal lovers here on Real Talk with Keith Smith. All right, my friends, I will follow your lead here. Maybe Woody Fincham, the real estate market, and what is closing 2024. I mean, goodness gracious, we are 3 weeks away from the close of 2024. I mean, think about that. That's bananas. The year is flown. So the market now, some commentary from you, and then maybe we'll talk the market, what we can expect next year. Show is yours, Woody Fincham.
We're doing a lot of pre-listing appraisals right now for brokers and agents who are getting into some more complicated property, more complex stuff, it's up from where it was last year, which means that the agents out there want to list their properties at a competitive amount, but not overlist them. I think a lot of the consumers are still thinking that their properties are, worth a whole lot more maybe than they really are. So we're bringing a little bit of common sense to that, and trying to help our agent partners get things priced correctly. But when the market it's not cooling really, but it's still a very strong seller market at this point. But we are starting to see some of those properties sit a little bit longer than they have been. So I think that's making a few people a little nervous with it, expectedly so. A lot of estate work right now. Conservation easement work is starting to pick up big time. Folks are wanting to take advantage of the tax credits that come along with the conservation easements, and that's always fun work to do because it's complex stuff.
Candice, the show is absolutely yours. Lori says Woody makes the best cinnamon rolls for Christmas morning. She wants to highlight that your cinnamon rolls.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I have to do that every year.
Yeah, I love some cinnamon rolls. Amy, Lynn Fincham, Rich Blackman III as well, giving you some props. Candice, where are we going to go?
Great questions, and shout out to Amy Fincham too. She, this actually, I'm going to segue a little bit. Taking the valuation and taking perspective from the professionals in the area that they have expertise is critical. So Amy, for example, I have clients that just absolutely love me, of course, and they're in an area that is not in my backyard. So of course I want to help them. Of course I want to do what's best for them. So I called on other professionals in the area, and Amy was amazing. She jumped right on it. It's great to have this networking opportunity. And I actually, so Michael Guthrie was leading our fair housing training the other day, and he said it again. We really need to, when times are tight and listings or buyers are a little bit sparse, a lot of people will go outside of where they actually should be working. Now myself, I know a couple other people within Yes Realty Partners are very proficient in all 6 counties. I'm really knowledgeable in a wide range of properties and types of properties. I'll do commercial, I'll do residential, farms, lands, developing. However, not everybody should do that. And if I'm going to Northern Virginia, I'm going to call an agent in Northern Virginia who is a professional there, and I know they will do the best for my clients, and my clients are going to get the best from their realtor. Same thing if it's somebody in Richmond or someone doing a renovation and you're not really that skilled in that department, reach out to the pros. So as far as, segueing back to appraisal and valuation, it's really critical that the professionals are doing things the right way so that the domino effect can really, really be upheld, and that is critical.
We so I'll just throw some talking points to you guys. As Woody said, I'm seeing the DOMs get a little longer, the days on market get a little longer. I'm seeing the price cuts, price adjustments, modifications, whatever we want to call them. Those are happening, and I'm curious of the mindset with the seller, and has that mindset, maybe the word is shifted or adjusted to a market that is rapidly changing.
Should we go with the friends pivot?
Pivot. Yeah, pivot is another one. That's a great one right there. Is the mindset pivoting in a rapidly changing market, or is it still a mindset that might be, oh, my friend got this during COVID, I can get the same. It's a year, 18 months later.
We are seeing that some. I've got a project that we just bid on over near Natural Bridge, very unique piece of property. Buyers want to do it. They're going to pay cash for it, but this property has sat on the market for a while. It's a big double dome property that's connected together with like an interior breezeway. Sits on almost 30 acres. Has a solar PV array on it. Views of the Allegheny Mountains. I mean, it's about as complex a piece of property as you'll see. And if anyone's ever seen geodesic domes, they're a different kind of piece of property. And, not every appraiser or every agent's going to be comfortable working with something like that, because those things have a very unique marketability. So properties like that, we get calls on all the time. And, that's a buyer wanting to do it just for diligence. But sellers are doing it too. I mean, anything that's somewhat complex anymore, listing agents are, thankfully, they're referring us a lot of work, saying, hey, this is something we want to make sure we price correctly when we put it on, so let's get an appraisal to do it. And it seems to be a tool that a lot of agents seem to like to use.
I'll highlight some of the realtors watching the program. Logan Wells-Kalelo, we love you. Thank you for watching our shows. Katie Pearl, we appreciate you. Thank you for watching the program. I see some folks watching at Nest, Real Estate 3, Keller Williams, watching the program right now as well. Candice, my friend, yes. I will adapt to you. I certainly want to talk 2025 and what your predictions are for where the market's going, but maybe the mindset answer for you.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, so as far as pivoting in the mindset, it's still, I talk with buyers who are, both buyers and sellers, who have kind of stayed in this mindset of, well, the interest rates are going to come down, or, we'll wait for the next thing. The next thing isn't there. If the house, the location, the layout, if those things are right, you should go for it, because it's not going to be sitting around. Days on market are definitely up. And what I've seen since really July of this year is that there is a sweet spot in there. When it's priced at a certain price, there's no activity, no one's interested, maybe a few, tire kickers will come through the door. But then when we find that sweet spot over the last 6 months or so, then, there's like the herd blowing over the door and rushing through. And then sometimes it even becomes a bidding war. Like, where were these people a week ago? So there definitely is a mindset shift in that, where buyers go, okay, now it's at a price that I feel confident in. The IRPs are amazing as well. And looking at the interest rates are not coming down. 3%, it was horrible for the economy overall. I think that was just an absolutely not good long-term thing that had happened when it did. And that's not realistic. So 6.7, even 7%, in
where
that
we are
range,
now.
It's where it should be.
Yeah.
And it's a healthier market. I have investors as well as buyers that are constantly going, oh, well, when it comes down, it's not. And if anything changes within the financing portion of the industry, then the prices are going to go up and people are going to be bidding again. So if you see something, if you're involved in something, if the price is right, you like the location, the floor plan, go for it, because it's not going to be waiting around for you. And then alternatively, with the mindset for sellers, pricing inappropriately or thinking that they don't have anywhere to go and this and that, The reality is anything's only ever worth what a buyer's willing to pay and a seller's willing to sell. And I've seen a lot of sellers not take lower offers and sit for months on end. Or while the house is sitting, they're not doing the critical improvements for maintaining, power washing, fixing the deck, clearing things out of clutter, and heaven forbid you have an HVAC tech come in and clean your ducts, call some people and get this work done. If your house isn't being shown or if it isn't moving, there's a reason for it. And if it's location or the floor plan, maybe you can't really do much about that. But if it's condition, maintenance, having a pro come in and do staging or better pictures, there's a lot of creativity that your professional realtor or having an appraisal evaluation or inspection, there's a lot of creativity we can do to find that sweet spot.
Angus Arrington giving you some props right now. More realtors jumping in the mix as we speak. Woody Fincham, your thoughts on what Candice had to say about rates, and hey, if you're waiting for rates to drop, prices are just going to escalate. And what you're going to gain with a rate drop, you're going to lose even more on a price escalation.
That's a very possible scenario. What I don't know about what's going to happen over the next several months with the administration change coming in, they're already talking about dismantling the CFPB.
Explain that, CFPB.
So that's the Consumer Finance, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. They're basically a government entity that has been set up to look after consumers and what's going on in the financing world, mortgages and that type of thing. And the new administration's already said that they're very candid about the fact that they want to dismantle it because they just see it as an unnecessary government organization, among other government organizations they want to pull apart. I'm not saying it's good or bad. We don't know, but there's a lot of talk about this tariff stuff that may create some instability because my basic understanding of economics says if we start doing a lot of tariffs, it's going to start raising issues in the economy, not actually making them better. But I don't know. A lot of the economists that I trust and follow are saying that they're looking very positively at the administration change. But it's one of those things. I mean, had you asked me if right after COVID, if rates doubling would have slowed the market down, I would have said absolutely, but it didn't. It remained on steroids. Unbelievably that you double interest rates and demand did not shift really at all once consumers got used to it, which took, 90 days maybe? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Every indication that we have right now is that it's going to stay positive, but, again, my track record after COVID has been a little bit off just because forecasting off of what we think is typical is not typical because our new normal is different than it used to be.
Stephanie Wells Rhodes giving props to everyone, especially Candice over here. We love Stephanie Wells Rhodes of the Intrastate Service Company family. She says, good morning, Candice.
Good morning to you, too.
We love you, Stephanie Wells Rhodes. We've been talking about the rate piece for so long, and the crystal balls have been so murky about rates dropping, and I loved your take. Guys, just do it. You can always refinance later. We thought rates were going to drop in the second half of this year. Now people are talking rates could drop next year. It could be summertime. You watch CNBC today, and some forecasters are now saying we're going to be in this interest rate environment for much of 2025. So
right.
All those folks that have been waiting for rates to drop to get into the game, they're just losing because the prices continue to go up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere you want to go on this commentary, I also want to talk to you about what we need to do to get inventory, for sale inventory, available inventory uptick as well. Because let's cut to the chase. The market is a bit throttled right now because there's just not a lot of stuff for sale.
Yeah, and it's a really weird dynamic because when talking with the public or with consumers, you say, oh, inventory's down, but there's a lot of homes with high days on market. So where's the sweet spot? I had a great conversation with Nancy from Southern Development Homes the other day. They are up significantly in their sales and their sale volume compared to what other realtors are. And I was saying, well, are you getting a lot of people that are coming in unrepresented? And she said, no, most everybody is represented. And anyone who isn't, she's like, wow, if you don't buy this new construction, you are making a mistake by not having a professional represent you. The 5 Ds, talk about the 5 Ds again. Divorce, what is it? Divorce, death, diamonds, downsizing. They're
Diapers.
Diapers. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So family changes, family dynamic, reasons that somebody has to do a move. Having to bring family members into the fold, having to get rid of people out of the fold. There are many reasons that people have to make a move. Similarly, the car reference was, you're not going to buy the new car until yours keels over, and then whoops, you got to do something. So the pivot in the mindset of people just going in and doing what they need to do, I definitely see that's become much stronger. The crystal ball said, you know what, as literally within 2 days after the election, doesn't matter who won or what happened or what your side is, it initiated the phone to ring. Buyers were calling, potential sellers were calling about, looking at listings. What I would love to talk to Woody also about is this concept of, appraisal waivers. And going from potentially 20% down with a lot of appraisal waivers happening now
right.
to 10% down getting appraisal waivers and having property valuation programs with lenders versus what they are now. I think, again, it's a creative way for a shift to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what you were just talking about, I was just thinking about Jurassic Park, the movie. Dr. Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum's character in there, life finds a way. And that happens with real estate. I mean, life events happen, and you're going to continue to do it. Looking at it pragmatically, just to finish up what you were talking about, as life things happen, we are historically still at really good interest rates. So, I mean, if you're looking at the time value of money, you're still be able to borrow at a very good rate. It's, it's not a horrible rate. It's just different than what we had a few years ago. And I think people just got used to that. We're not going to see 3% again. At least I don't think in my career. But again, my crystal ball is about as murky as they get. Jumping over to appraisal waivers, it's an interesting time in mortgage lending. FHA, I'm not FHA, but Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, we refer to them as the twins. They control about 70-75% of the market as far as mortgages go, and they are going to be increasing appraisal waivers. Their artificial intelligence, the algorithms that they use for doing their own in-house valuations, they feel like are good enough now that if you've got great credit, you're putting enough down. There's a previous appraisal on the property, which because of all the refinancing and all of the sales of property over the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of properties have already had appraisals done in that time period. So they feel like with the information they have on hand that they're able to do that. And we're seeing all kinds of stuff in that realm from you're putting enough down and you've got enough and you've got a perfect credit score. They're not even requiring a property inspection, but they will do what's called a property data collector, where they'll have an agent or even an appraiser, and in some cases, this is I think very dangerous, uncredentialed people like Uber drivers and things going out to do a property data collection on a piece of property, and they may not be very well trained. And I can say that with some expertise because I know a few folks have gone through the training to do property data collection, and it's like a 3 or 4 hour little seminar that you do online. And if you don't have any background in inspecting a property and looking at a property, that could be a little bit dangerous for consumers. We are seeing a lot of consumers that are getting property inspection waivers or appraisal waivers, and they're still getting appraisals anyway on their own dime because they want to do the diligence to make sure that they're not getting themselves in a bad position. Because algorithms do fail. I mean, Zillow, a major player in the real estate space, a couple of years ago shut down their iBuyer program because their algorithms just wasn't producing any type of profit for them, and it was actually putting them in a very risky position. So, I still think you need to have a human being involved. If you combine artificial intelligence and algorithms with a human being who knows how to look at that data, I think you get a perfect storm. But if you're going to rely on just one piece of technology or two pieces of technology with no human interaction, I don't know that it's necessarily the most reliable and risk-free environment. So.
Well, it's interesting too. Obviously, human interaction, that's what we're here for. That's what the professionals are here to do as well. And opening inventory, helping consumers, helping buyers, all of these algorithms and all of this AI and all of this tech has really put a different spin on the consumer's mindset. So again, talking about mindset and pivoting, again, so many people, I get calls, I want to see this, and we're not working with a realtor, but we've done it before and we know stats and we use these other, we'll say the big Z, we use these other things and we're knowledgeable. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. However, who's going to help you through the inspection? Who's going to help you if you do want an appraisal and you have an appraisal waiver? Is that really going to be of good value for you? Or are you going to lose the contract because what seller is going to want to, contingent on an appraisal whenever you're putting 20% down or maybe 10% down next year? So really the terms of the contract are still multifaceted. And the public perception of, oh, I've done this, oh, there's no inventory, oh, it's a buyer or a seller market. Really, there's so much more involved than that. And human interaction and, like with the appraisers, I know from different conversations we've had, through the years, it is such a challenging industry to get into and to be a professional with. So, the twins, Fannie and Freddie, what happens if, there's potential talk about it being publicized and not being...
Well, my bigger question is why is FHFA allowing Fannie and Freddie to do this? I mean, that's their oversight organization, and they're still in conservatorship from the Dodd-Frank years. I mean, they didn't make great... When you allow retail and mortgage to lead what's going on, compliance goes out the window, unfortunately. And I mean, we had to bail them out last time. Are we going to have to do that again because of this type of thing? It is a concern.
Yeah.
Well, why are they allowing it? Why do you speculate for us here?
So, I mean, obviously I'm pro appraiser because of what I do for a living. But I mean, just looking at it, I try to.
It seems absolutely insane.
To me, it is. I mean, when. The bottom line is the GSEs with the twins, Fannie and Freddie, they are led by their retail division, and their compliance division they try to keep them towing the line as best they can, but they're always trying. It's capitalism, right? You always try to figure out the environment, and you're trying to make the most profit that you can. A lot of times, they're looking at appraisers as a hurdle or a speed bump in the whole thing, because you have to remember, appraisers are the only entity in the entire mortgage process that are not advocating for one side or the other. We're supposed to be free of bias. We're supposed to be there to be objective and to help the lender understand if this is a risk worth taking at the collateral. But the GSE shifted several years ago away from collateral based to credit based. So what they're looking at is, okay, well, if you've got great credit, good repayment history, you're worth taking a risk on. So what they don't tell us, because these algorithms and things that they use to make their decisions are all proprietary. So we're not allowed to see how they're making these decisions. So, I mean, are they pushing them upwards? Are they pushing them downwards? Are they going in the middle? We don't know. But I mean, I would say that, looking at the fact that they want to continue to grow their shareholder value and things like that, they're going to go risky as risky as they're allowed to go anyway, to make these decisions. And I don't know, it may not be the best decisions in the end.
Well, it's unfortunate because not everybody is a pro like you. Not all the appraisers are actually staffed and diligent and professional. And similarly, in any industry, whenever you have a lot of people who are hungry for anything and will take on anything, even if they're not appropriate to do so,
right,
they're just going to look, there's a lot, especially with the twins, the government doesn't put the cart after the horse. They're looking at, we need to save money, let's make this change. Whereas if they actually backed up for a minute and instead of when they have a property that needs an evaluation and they send an appraiser out who was an Uber driver 3 hours ago and they just happened to be delivering food that day and they ride by a house, they go, it should be this. I mean, they take that valuation versus a professional, a BPO or a realtor who says, hey, you're, the appraiser who isn't a pro like Woody and goes out and values something $100K less than what it should be. And now the listing agent's got 5,000 phone calls a day because the property is valued less than what the actual earth is. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then they wonder why they're losing money and they want to put changes into place that really, if they just were to step back and see where it is falling apart at the seams, then they would actually save more money, they would do better for the consumers, and they wouldn't have to be so volatile with these drastic and dramatic changes.
Well, I'm going to jump in for a sec. The current administration with the PAVE Act, they attacked the appraisal industry right as soon as the administration came in. And overall, I don't have a lot of criticism of the current administration, but I do have a criticism of what they did to the appraisal profession. There's not been one founded complaint yet on bias in the appraisal sphere, and they really went after appraisers saying that, there's racial bias here or this, that, or the other. I think they were doing it, and I think, a lot of the twins maybe even were a little, they kind of stayed out of it other than saying that, hey, we're going to make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen. But, there's no real strong data out there other than some arbitrary studies that were done by some professors here and there that were using Zillow as a basis to say that, hey, the values are off. Well, I'm sorry, Zillow, like I mentioned earlier, they had to get out of the iBuyer program because their data didn't help them make any money. And so there's been an attack on them in that way, and there's been an impetus on the mortgage companies out there, from the mortgage companies rather, they're using these third parties called appraisal management companies, and these appraisal management companies make money off of hiring the cheapest and the fastest appraisers. So going back to what you're talking about, bringing in agents or appraisers from other markets that are not familiar, but if you're an appraiser who only does lending work, you've got to make sure that you don't upset anybody. So you do have a bias there where you're trying to make sure that you don't torpedo any deals. We don't want to underappraise anything because, and let's face it, over the last several years, there have been several instances where people were willing to pay more than the property was really worth, and that doesn't put them in a good position at all. But, there are appraisers who, an appraiser coming to Charlottesville from 4 hours away that is charging half the normal rate in Charlottesville to do the appraisal, I don't know how they're making money, and they can't be spending the amount of time that a professional is spending on it. It takes us, 8 to 12 hours to prepare and do a complete appraisal from inspection to getting the report out the door. And some folks on social media, they'll say, well, I can get them done in a couple of hours. That's scary to me. Are they really doing anything? And I think the GSEs are looking at that kind of thing and going, they're not as reliable as they should be. And so there's not a lot of impetus from the mortgage companies and the appraisal management companies to hire the best. They're hiring the cheapest. And you get what you pay for sometimes.
Well said. And the industry, the appraisal industry as a whole, you've highlighted this on previous shows. It's an industry that is aging.
Yes.
And it's an industry that's not only aging toward retirement, it's an industry where the new talent is not as prevalent as it once was.
It's hard to get into the business.
That's where we should go down this road
on
how this could impact everything we're talking about.
Well, Fannie and Freddie have adopted a new format for appraising that goes into effect the latter part of next year. A lot of appraisers who've been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years, they're actually going to be getting out of the business. They don't want to. This new format's scary to them because it's going to be much more time and much more time is going to be required to do it. I actually like the new formats because we like to write. We're report writers, so we're actually welcoming in the change. But in the end, we're going to have a lot of folks get out of the business, and getting into the business is very difficult because there's still an old mercantile style apprenticeship that's required to get into the business. So if an appraiser is not willing to take you in and let you mentor under them, they're not going to be able to get in. And a lot of appraisers, the GSEs a couple of years ago, they will tell you that they're okay with having trainee appraisers come in. But they're gladly welcoming these property data collectors who are not trained to do what we do, but they won't allow us to utilize people that we've trained to go out and do the inspections. So they're talking out of both sides of their head, unfortunately. And I think it's intentional. I think they really want to cut back on the number of appraisals that they're having to order from human beings and rely more on technology. The Appraisal Institute, which is the largest professional organization out there for appraisers in North America, they've created a program through the Appraisal Foundation, which is like the federal, they're not technically federal, they're a kind of a quasi-private public entity, but they're the ones who the Congress established to oversee credentialing in our profession. they created a program called PARIA. It's the Practical Appraisal Real Estate Application. It's a practical training, so appraisers don't actually have to go work under a mentor to get credentialed. It's a really good program. I think we've got something like 700 people working through the program right now. To give you numbers, there's about 40,000 appraisers on the residential side, total of 75,000 if you count the non-residential appraisers that do commercial and industrial work out there. So we're not
and that's entire U.S.?
That's the U.S., yeah.
I mean, that's nothing. How many people do we have in this town alone?
Absolutely nuts right there.
I mean, look at realtors. I mean, if you look at NAR, there's well over 1.5 million of them, or us, because I'm a realtor as well. But in the end, I mean, very small profession. And so, we don't have the treasure chest to fight this stuff the way that, I mean, if the twins were going after NAR agents the way they're going after appraisers right now, there'd be a big fight because, they've got millions of dollars to fight that. We don't. I mean, we have a very small lobbying treasure chest, unfortunately.
75,000 appraisers in the United States?
Yeah.
And there's, according to NAR, I'm looking at it right now, February 2024, NAR folks, the National Association of Realtors, 1,515,837 licensed realtors in the U.S. Folks, if you wanted to get in the real estate game, maybe you look at it from the appraiser side right there instead of the realtor side. Wow. We have folks that are asking on the feed for their thoughts on, both your thoughts on 2025 and what it's going to take to get some more stuff to look at on the websites for sale. I mean, I'm seeing this everywhere on the feed right now. I mean, how many times do you get that question? You get that all the time.
But you know what? Here's the thing. Because I ask myself that question. Where can I've got buyers looking, calling me, what's going on? Hey, I guess it's a slow time. I'm like, no, let me reach out. As a professional too. I mean, I'm calling people. I'm calling my clients. I'm calling my friends and family and saying, hey, I know you guys have a few places. Are you interested in selling? You never know what might be coming around the corner. And or people, over the last few years, expireds, withdrawns, go in and look at inventory that hadn't closed in the past. I do it. So in answering that question too, I do, getting professionals to get in, encouraging Intrastate and encouraging Pearl and encouraging the different companies and businesses to come in and do the upkeep, do the maintenance, do the things, not saying renovations per se, but just make sure your systems are working properly. Get a power wash, for heaven's sake. Do some landscaping. Doing some of this stuff ahead of time before you're going, why is nobody seeing my house? The pictures look great and photographers can do a great job, but when people show up and things are outdated or not maintained, that really makes a difference. So appraisals and the condition of the home really make a big difference. And the thing that I'm seeing that really, I think, is keeping buyer mentality in the dinosaur ages of 2021 to 2023 is that, and I don't know how appraisers are doing it, because looking at what happened in the last 4 years, really in the last 2 years, it's unrealistic. So I have, different clients or different people that are looking at doing development or building or, investor mindset of, this home is worth this because of a home that sold 2 years ago. That's not relevant. Right. Even in February of this year, it's not relevant what the market was to then evaluate from a seller perspective or a buyer perspective, it should be this. Well, it's not. You're not getting knocks on the door. We're not getting offers. It's obviously condition, price, or location. One of those are a reason the place isn't selling or a buyer isn't buying. We got to be realistic about that. And looking for years ago, it's not relevant.
What do you think, Woody?
I mean, real estate's real time. I mean, real estate's extremely hyper-local. What's going on in your neighborhood matters. What happened a couple years ago may or may not be. I mean, if I'm in Farmington or in Keswick or someplace like that, we do look at older transactions because those are very high value properties, and those types of properties are a very small percentage of the overall market. I mean, I've got agents that reach out to me. I've had 9 or 10 over the last couple of years. We live at Lake Monticello in a colonial, and it's at a very attractive price point. You could buy our property at market value for less than $400,000, and it's a nice neighborhood to live in, right? But I'm not selling because then I have to go buy, and I'm not giving up a 2.9% interest rate. I think my wife and I will probably be there until we're old people, but I just don't, it's a crazy market anymore. And you're right. I mean, when we're out doing appraisals on mortgage transactions, I'm surprised at how many properties are not really prepped to sell. They don't power wash, they don't stage, they don't do anything. But when you're in the internal part of Charlottesville and around the suburban core of Albemarle County, that's a location thing. You don't have to prep those properties, I guess, as much as you would otherwise. A lot of agents still very much will stage and have the properties ready to go, but and they sell very quickly. But it's amazing. I mean, between an average quality or condition home and a very good condition home, we're not seeing as big a delta between those two as we would have 5, 6, 7 years ago. Condition really mattered then. Now, when you're in a very hot market, if you're around downtown or you're again the suburban ring around the city, you don't have to do a lot of prep for it. So people are willing to pay almost the same prices for them. But if the property has a lot of deferred maintenance, that does matter. It really does.
Well, I'd say too, the days on the market really do tell. Even being in a location that is really hot and really happening, if a seller is pricing it thinking that it's going to be what it was in 2021, have that hard conversation up front and set the expectations. I've had a number of people actually who didn't use me because they had another realtor, what have you, and they asked my opinion or, why has the property not been selling? I'm like, well, because you priced it too high to begin with. Yep. You had an expectation that was in a market that doesn't exist now. And even though, you're in a location that may be really desirable, the buyer's perspective and the buyer confidence is like my reference is if there's a light plate cover like for a light switch and it needs to be screwed in, a buyer's like, I don't want to have to deal with that. So I mean, but then at a sweet spot in the price and condition and location, they're like, we'll redo the entire kitchen. It'll be fine because there's nothing else available.
The other thing is cleaning your baseboards. You got to clean your baseboards.
Stephen Roach is inviting himself to the Cinnabons breakfast on Christmas that you're making. He says he's 2,551 miles away. What time are the Cinnabons served? Lori says 7 a.m. He says, okay, I'll start out tomorrow for your house. Megan Johnson Judd, who I believe is watching in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, that's where Megan is, yeah.
She says, Woody made a fantastic point about the interest rates. Having a low interest rate is worth too much for most sellers to want to sell and then re-up on a new property at a rate that's more than twice what they already have. I'm hearing that constantly. John, how do you say, John Copulus? Is that his last name?
Cope is what we call him.
He's watching the program right now. He's an appraiser. He says, when appraising unique homes, it's very common for us to use older sales to get an idea on value. A money comp from down the street that sold 3 years ago to me is considered a great indicator. If values have dropped 10% since then, that is how we adjust for it. I want to get back to Megan's comment, and Stephen is just in love with the Cinnabon concept. He continues to talk about the
Stephen's welcome to. We've got a spare room.
Stephen.
Steve, we've got a spare room. You can come as long as you don't mind Australian Shepherds. You're welcome to come stay, man.
They sound fantastic, Woody. The interest rate. What do you guys call it? The golden handcuffs. Having the 2.5%, 3% rate, where you won't get off the rate despite having significant equity in the home. That's a mindset that continues to be out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the VA assumables, that's something that a lot of the instructors at the Appraisal Institute have been talking about that teach on this stuff, and I'm lucky to be in that group. And part of that conversation, if you've got a VA that has a 2.9 or 3% interest rate and you're getting ready to sell it, that is an assumable rate as long as that person can qualify for it. And you don't have to be a veteran to qualify for it. So that's something that appraisers we're getting back to. Like in the 1980s, we were making cash equivalency adjustments because of how high the interest rates are. But if you're buying a piece of property that has an interest rate like that and you can assume it, that's a very positive leverage position for you to be in. And yes, it does have a value to it. I mean, appraisers should be adjusting for that if they're dealing with it. We're not seeing it a lot right now because, again, like you said, Jerry, a lot of folks are they have that golden handcuff. They're strapped to it. They're not going to sell. But if they're in a situation where life happens and they have to sell, what is it, the 5 Ds you said? So if that's the case, they have to sell it for whatever reason. If the buyer's in a good position to take advantage of that, I mean, that property is going to probably sell at a high premium in the market because, you're going to save a bunch of money over the course of a 30-year mortgage. So,
What do you make of that, Candice?
No, I agree. One of the things too I wanted to bring up is the appraiser perspective on, so again, for example, new construction has a lot of creativity in their offerings for, some lenders or some new construction lenders will actually take your down payment or your deposits and give you interest back on it for, waiting through the, 4 months or 6 months or however long it takes to build. So I've seen also a lot of, there are older, people are going, oh, I want a new home. I don't want it past this certain age, nothing, that's, 10 years or older. But there's a home, a property on a really nice established lot, beautiful place that's from like the 50s or 60s that's been completely renovated. New everything. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. The evaluation and perspective from an appraiser's standpoint on going new construction versus a little more land, a little more established location, and a little older home that's been totally renovated and updated.
Well, if I understand what you're asking, how do the two compare to one another?
Yeah, because I know, like, from a buyer perspective or from a seller, from, a buyer perspective, they go, well, it's still an old home, even though it's new.
That's true.
And from a seller perspective, they go, it's a new freaking home. It should be priced like the one in the neighborhood down the street.
We're doing a private assignment right now where that's a very unique piece of property. It's on like 20 acres. It's kind of a little bit rural, but just outside of the suburban ring around the city. It's in Albemarle County. And that's what they're thinking is they're like, well, if you're taking this 20-acre piece of property, it's a super huge home sitting on this thing. And they're like, well, new homes on little tiny quarter-acre lots are selling for 7 figures. We should be able to do that. What I would tell people to do is pause and think for a second, particularly real estate professionals. What makes one property comparable to another? And that really comes down to, is the consumers looking at those properties, comparing these properties together? Most of the time, an older property on acreage is not going to be the same consumer base as someone wanting to live in a quarter-acre subdivision. I'm trying to think about some of the stuff down along Lynchburg Road, 5th Street.
What, Redfields? You're talking
Mountain
Valley Farm?
Well, some of the new ones that are
Oak
like
Hill
Mosley
Farm.
and
Oak Hill Farm?
Yeah, down through there. I mean, if you're wanting to live in a subdivision like that, you're likely not looking at acreage because, there's I think there's an age barrier to some of those properties, right? I mean, if you're older and you don't want to take care of a lot of land,
the maintenance.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into stuff to that. So, I mean, if you can get into a brand new property with no upkeep at all, no deferred maintenance on it, that's better off. But if you buy 20 acres, you got to manage the 20 acres. And even if it's all treed and you think you don't have to, trees fall down. You got to take care of them, right? So, I mean, I don't know that necessarily we have the same consumer base looking at the same two types of property. So I wouldn't comp them together, to be honest with you. I mean, I think you're going to get into a problem with your client if you're trying to comp it that way.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was expecting to hear because, again, the public perception and the consumer perception from a person selling that 20 acres with the big farmhouse going, oh, wow, mine should be worth X because, Oak Hill is worth Y. It really, you said it exactly right. It is not the same. And so from a real estate professional standpoint, talking with our sellers, talking with our buyers about those evaluations, and going into communities that are already established versus new construction or new homes. Like, yes, the more new construction that closes, the more they're available, it will open up, or should be opening up, inventory of resale homes. And at the same time, people who are sitting there going, you know what, we're in our home, we have all this equity, we're just going to renovate. You're really probably going to overbuild and not ever get that back. So
That's true.
It's really an advantage to sell, even if the interest rate is double. You know, you went from 2% to 6%, or, you know, triple in that case. It still is a better advantage in the long run to sell that property that no longer fits your family's needs, the 5 Ds again, and buy something different, because a lot of people will end up overbuilding, overspending, over-modifying, and then in 4 or 5 years when something does happen and they now need to sell, they go, wait, we overbuilt, we overspent, why are we not getting our investment back? Well, you should have called a professional before, and they'd have told you you're better off to sell and move.
We did that this summer.
Yeah. I mean,
my wife was spending 2.5 hours a day in the car driving our boys around, and it was just entirely too much.
Yeah.
And we shifted spots.
we can, we sometimes, when folks are getting ready to renovate, it's a good idea to hire an appraiser. I mean, do what's called a feasibility analysis.
He did that for our house.
Yeah,
It was fantastic.
Look at what types of improvements you're thinking that you want to do, and then have a professional help you figure out what's going to be the most return on your money. Because I see it all the time. People will put $200,000 into a piece of property, and they might recapture 100, 150 of it. So they're going to lose money in that situation. It's worth the $600 to $1,000 to have an appraiser run some scenarios for you, which is something that I wish more people would actually take advantage of, because, you know, nothing makes me happier than to help people get good information to make good decisions, because that's all we're trying to do, is help people make a good decision.
John says, what's the 5 Ds again? Death, divorce, diamonds, diapers, downsizing.
Yeah.
The 5 Ds right there, Cop. Brent Johnson, know and understand the property and market segments. Woody Fincham does. He's giving you some props.
Thanks, Brent.
Mark from On the Mark Appraisal Services is watching the program. Sounds like you got another Cinnabon guest with Mark, and he's going to hop a ride with Steven over there.
Come on.
The appraisers love the Cinnabons on the feed over here. You're welcome, John. You're welcome. All right, so comments are coming in here. Do you see the units sold in 2025 surpassing 2024, being on par with 2024, or being less than 2024?
I would gander that it's going to be less, because there's just not enough inventory to keep up to that level.
I'll say, it better be more. There's one of my a lender friend had sent me a thing the other day. Overall, now this is nationwide. Transaction count is down 65% from last year. And again,
and last year was down from the previous year.
Yeah.
Well, what a lot of people don't understand, in 2023, there were more released contracts. Yeah, maybe things were going in bidding wars, maybe things were going quickly under contract. However, what percentage of those actually closed and went to closing on the first try? There were more released contracts overall in 2023 than there had been in a decade contiguously. So the released contracts in 2023 that then ended up adjusting, going back under contract, and then closing, the public don't look at that or see that, whereas the professionals do. And then this year in 2024, the number of actual transactions closed is down significantly. So talking about low inventory, I see that pivot in the mindset of the consumer going, okay, it's time where the interest rates aren't going back down. We need to make a move for whatever family reasons or structure, or, driving 2 hours one direction, sitting in traffic. Grocery prices are going up. Just functional life obsolescence, either in your home functionality, in your location, or in your own private family needs. It's got to make a shift. And with new construction being as booming as it is, I'm counting on, and I'm hopeful that phone is going to keep on ringing, and we'll have more inventory on the market this year.
So you're taking the over on 2025?
Yes.
You're saying
yes.
It's
going to be amazing.
And you're taking the under?
Yeah, but I'll caveat with, I think that professionals like Candice and like Keith and folks like that, I think their transactions are probably going to go up. because they're the professionals in the market. We've got, with real estate agents and brokers, there's a lot of folks in the business that might do one transaction a year. And, those folks I think are probably going to be hit harder than the folks that are, the mainstays for any market across the country. If you're well known and your clients love you, they're going to continue to come to you. I mean, because
9% of agents do 90% of the business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a relationship business, right? So if you've got a good client base, I think you're going to continue to be the power swingers in the market.
I get this. I hear this statement all the time. Cops put this in the feed. I hear it constantly. If rates get down to the 5.5 range, the market will pop, will boom.
But then it's not good. It really is not healthy. Why have a market boom? And like the Earpies say, if your sale price is up here, it doesn't matter what your interest rate is. If you buy into the sale price and it's affordable, it's the right location, it's the right floor plan, it's the right setting for your family and your family's needs, then the interest rate is really not going to make that big of an effect and change versus the bidding wars and the price gouging and the increase and
what happens in that market when you drop to such an advantageous rate? I mean, if it goes to 5.5, what really gets hurt are the workforce folks. The people that are hourly wage, they get priced out of the market quickly because their buying power is just not there.
I think those folks may be priced out of Charlottesville and County right now.
They are.
Well, that's where it's beautiful. We have so many wonderful surrounding counties and communities, Waynesboro, Fishersville, Standardsville. I mean, Standardsville, there's how much? 500 homes coming out there. Now, what they're going to do about water and sewer, I don't know yet, but ask Matthew Woodson about that. But, this is like what Keith says. When the pros are pros, we show up, we do our thing, and really just, again, being communicative, being professional, going through, I work with so many amazing professional realtors, and it is fantastic. Shout out to anyone in Pat Jensen Leadership Academy and anyone doing, FS, the full service professional real estate with Buffini. There are just professional realtors out there on the other side that make it really fantastic for our clients, for our consumers, and for the public. And then they understand it doesn't really matter. We're not at an 18% interest rate like in the 80s. We're at a 6 or 7. I mean, come on, people. It's not going to be 3 or 4 or 5 even again, and that's okay. Let's keep the price of the actual acquisition lower. And over 30 years, you can afford it. You might be able to refinance in a few years. But, the lower the ARMs and the 15-year, the 5 and 7 ARMs are not that attractive. So go in at a 30-year. Why not? Get the house, get the location, get now what your family needs so that you're not on the road for 2 hours every day driving kids back and forth. There it is. Enjoy your time, enjoy the Cinnabons, and enjoy every day to the fullest.
Oh, we have a good family friend that, he's a master carpenter, very good at what he does. He had to buy in Buckingham. I mean, he's got an hour commute every day because his price point had to be somewhere in the 250 or less just because of his personal situation. Great credit, just paid off all of his student loans, but he's down in Buckingham. Nothing wrong with Buckingham, but I mean, if your center of business is Charlottesville, that's a long ways we have to drive every day.
Which Janice, give her a shout out if you're going to Buckingham. She's a great realtor.
Oh yeah, Janice, definitely.
You guys are the best. The show flies. How about Candice and Woody? Some closing thoughts for the viewers and listeners. Candice, you want to go first?
Well, definitely save me some Cinnabuns. My only question was, is it iced or not iced? Definitely got to have the icing
cream
melt
cheese icing
all over it. Okay, good.
Very
perfect. Closing statements, if you have questions, if you're interested in learning, knowledge is power. The unasked question is never answered. Give me a call, give a professional realtor a call. If you would like appraisal and evaluation, give Woody's company a call. I mean, this is when the people who do it day in and day out are here for you. We love what we do, and we're here to help. So, pick up the phone and give us a shout.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're here to help any way that we can. Again, our firm specializes in kind of the more complex stuff. If you've got something strange, unusual, atypical, we're happy to help you with it. Dome homes, that's on my mind because we have one we're getting ready to do. But large estates, conservation easement work, we love working with we love lending work, but we love working in the non-lending world as well. We do a lot of work for attorneys. I've spent more time in court as a witness this year than I ever have, and I'm hoping that we continue to grow that. So if you're an attorney out there and need someone to help you with a valuation, we're very happy to do that.
Woody, Fincham, and Candice, they're pros. This was easy. Well done, guys.
You make it easy.
An hour and 5 minutes flies by right there, right? You guys
Yeah.
got to come back.
Always.
Yeah, hope to.
Keith Smith, for those who are asking, guys, is on an island. Is it in the Caribbean?
Saint Martin.
Saint Martin.
Loving the beautiful Caribbean, the blue waters, and no Wi-Fi right now, apparently.
That's right. That's what he said to
Yeah,
us. Although
Keith,
he emailed us.
He did.
How did
Oh,
that?
yeah. He definitely is micromanaging from 2,000 miles away.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Keith, you got to mention Yonna, because
Yes.
Yonna is such a professional, and they both are. I love working with both of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're back in 2025, guys. The show is archived on realtalkwithkeithsmith.com or wherever you get your social media and podcasting content. The I Love CVille show, ladies and gentlemen, is up at 12:30. Thank you kindly for joining us, and so on. Very nicely done.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
He's going to tell us when the mic